We're going to work with the mode in Google Sheets and see how easy it is just to compute a mode, but maybe a couple areas or ways that we can run into trouble. I'm working off of the central tendency sheet. First thing I'm going to do is I've got my day and I've got how many full glasses of water did I drink today. Really quick, water is a continuous variable, or glasses of water. I could have 5.4123 glasses of water, but because I use the word full, it becomes discrete. So I either consumed 0 full glasses or 1 full glass or 2 full glasses. So we have a discrete data set. With that out of the way, let's take a look and just see quickly how to compute a mode, and then maybe a little bit how we can get into trouble. So I have mode, and then I can really just click column B, and it appears that 2 glasses of water is the modal consumption. Okay, great. Well, that was not too tough. Let's see a little bit where we can run into trouble. I'm going to head over to this other Google Sheet, and I have constructed a frequency table of sorts. It's not quite a frequency table. We'll get there in just a bit, but it appears that the modal value of 2 shows up 8 times, whereas we have this other value, 5, show you, I added a 5. So this 5 shows up 7 times. All right, so the mode is definitely 2. What I want to show you is something that you have to be a little careful with, is if I put in just an extra day, and that extra day is 5, well, we do have the same number of 2. This became a true technical bimodal series. But if I go in and press equals mode, or I type that, and I just go down column B, I'm only going to get one outcome. And that's really what I want to warn you about, is that you will only get one outcome when you type in the mode. Even if a data set had 10 modes, you're only going to get one. So you want to be a little careful with this. And by the way, this is not something you can avoid by using, Microsoft Excel, for instance. You are only going to get one output. And so that's something where you have to take care. All right, well, there's another way that you can run into a little bit of trouble, and it's the way that we technically define the term mode versus how we use it in practice. So the technical definition is just the value or the values that show up more than any other values. So in this case, our mode is 2. That is the value that shows up more than any other value. But when we're speaking about our data more just broadly or generally, there's a good chance that you would hear that a data set like this would be bimodal, because we essentially have 2 different areas where our data tend to gather. So even though that's not technically true, that is very common. So how many peaks does the data have, even if those peaks are not literally the same, is what I'm getting at. Now what I'd like to do is just show you how to make a graph of your data set. And it's stuff that we've already done together. So I am going to just highlight this data column and create a chart. And notice here that I'm working with the raw data. And if you're working with the raw data, certainly in Google Sheets, some version of a histogram is likely going to be your go-to. But this is pretty interesting. This is a histogram of sorts, right? It looks like our data that shows up quite a bit is 2, which we knew was the case. And then it looks like there's this other kind of long horizontal stretch at 5. Another thing that we could try is scatter chart. And now all of a sudden we have a dot plot. So that's kind of interesting as well. One last is an area chart, right? So these aren't histograms, but we get some sense of the overall frequency. It's worth noting. Okay, well, I'm going to just head over and create a histogram now. And once again, we run into the trouble of these are really weird x-axis values, and we've already noted that we have something more akin to a bimodal distribution: 2 full glasses of water and 5 full glasses of water. So let's work with this. I'm going to customize. I'm going to head over to horizontal axis. I'm going to make my min value 0, and my data takes on values between 0 glasses of water and 8 full glasses of water. So I'm going to go to 9. And now that I've done that, I'm going to head up to histogram, and we're talking full glasses of water. So the most reasonable approach here is just to go with 1, right? That makes the most sense. So between 0 and 1, between 1 and 2, between 2 and 3, well, really the values should be right under the columns, but we get the idea here. And we have our bimodal distribution. So that would be a good way to model this out. There's another way, and it does succeed in ultimately getting the numbers directly under the column. So I'll walk you through that, but you can't work directly with the data. So this is the end result, and this is a nice end result, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, but you cannot do that just by highlighting your data, not Google Sheets anyway. You can with Excel. What you have to do is you have to create a frequency table. And the way that I accomplished that is I first went through all of my possibilities, just 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, etc. And then from there, what I did was I highlighted this whole region, right? Not just one cell, but the entire region. And I typed in equals frequency, and then I went with column B, and then I pressed comma, and they're saying, okay, well, what are the values, up to what value, between what value, what are my bins is essentially what Google Sheets is going to ask me. And so I highlight the different values that my bin can take. And when I do that, I get this frequency column, and it says, okay, well, 0 showed up twice, and 1 showed up 4 times, and 2 showed up 8 times. So I am imagining in this table here that I'm not looking backwards at the data that has actually been collected, and I'm just imagining, well, what if this were a discrete random variable, and these were all the numeric discrete values that my random variable could take, and somehow the observations that I observed also happened to be the sort of the empirical frequencies. They were my PMF. And from there, I could create this lovely chart. I'll just show you how to do it. I'm going to highlight, and then I'm going to press Command or Control and continue highlighting. And now that I have those values highlighted, I'm going to insert a chart. And it starts me off with a combo chart, which is nice. Notice, though, there's only a left axis. And so I have to make a couple changes. I'm going to go into Customize. I'm going to go over to Series. And then when it comes to line 2, I'm going to head on down and axis, right axis. And that'll do it. I'm now working with the PMF, relative frequencies effectively, and the CMF, the cumulative mass function. So those are pretty much all the variations that you might run into. A little bit of this lesson was on just like how to calculate and compute a mode, and a little bit of this lesson is how to sort of create a frequency table and different variations of how you could visualize this stuff in Google Sheets.